Hello, slimes and non-slimes alike. Rosa here, and Superheated Glass is the Judgment's worst fucking add-on. So before we get into the real meats and potatoes of this video, let me just address the elephant in the room. Yes, I did say I wasn't going to make any videos specifically covering specific add-ons for the Judgment. However, A, I'm quickly running out of things to actually talk about outside of the add-ons, and B, I technically already broke this rule when discussing Praeler Kneeler becoming base kit in my Starva response video, so whatever. Also, I don't know why this Glen gave up at 5 generators not even a minute into the match, but they did. So, moving on to the actual topic of the video, Superheated Glass. If you don't know what this add-on does, I'll go ahead and be showing it on screen right about now. But what this add-on does is decrease the duration of your Zealous mode by half, making it go from a full minute to 30 seconds. In exchange, whenever you are in Zealous mode, you gain the ability to break pallets with your power. This effect is dog shit. It's dog shit for a very good reasons. Reasons? Okay. It's dog shit for plenty of reasons. For one, it's one of the very few add-ons the Judgment has that comes with a strict downside, with not that much of an upside either. In exchange for losing half of your duration in Zealous mode, you gain the ability to break pallets with your power that ignores pallets. This isn't a good fucking trade-off. Losing half of your empowered state in exchange for being able to break pallets with an ability that is able to ignore pallets is just not that good of a trade-off, I'm gonna be honest. The obvious counter-argument to this is to run this add-on with perks like Thwack or Spirit Fury. And yes, it does activate perks like Thwack and Spirit Fury. I did test this in a custom game, and in fact in the background footage you can see me using this add-on with Thwack. However, you're not going to be getting stunned as the Judgment. At least you shouldn't be getting stunned as the Judgment. There really isn't a scenario where a ranged killer gets stunned all too often, so being able to charge Spirit Fury with this add-on doesn't really... well, it's not really worth it, to say the least. Now, Thwack, on the other hand, is something that does seem worth it. Being able to break a pallet and gain aura reading on a survivor is extremely useful for a character like Judgment, especially when they can follow it up with a shot. Yeah, you see the problem here? If you don't, I'll illustrate it to you. You need to shoot the pallet and put your power on cooldown to get the aura reading to then land your next shot. In the background footage, you'll see several times me using Thwack by just breaking the pallet normally and then immediately following up with a shot with my power, because it is far more effective to do that than to try and get value out of Superheated Glass and Thwack simultaneously and then try to follow up with Divine Light. Because your power is not Pyramid Head. You cannot instantly just use it the moment you're out of your recovery. There's a pretty noticeable cooldown between uses. And unfortunately, the Judgment suffers from this issue, where they have to balance this weird thing where they have to constantly enter Zealous and keep up their stacks of Thwack. Because the shorter duration of Zealous means that you have to exile people more often, but in order to maintain your stacks of Thwack, you need to be hooking people often. Meaning Superheated Glass and Thwack being the only two things... So, hold on. So, Superheated Glass requiring you to constantly exile people is anti-synergistic with Thwack, which requires you to constantly hook people to get value out of, and this is the only good combo Superheated Glass has with. So, like, what the fuck is the point of running this with anything? Like, genuinely. Superheated Glass gives you a mediocre effect for a debuff that is very noticeable and requires a second add-on to mitigate. And, like, I don't even know what to say. It's just a fucking terrible add-on. I don't think the Judgment has very many add-ons that I would consider, like, actually dog shit. There are definitely a few add-ons that I don't like, either because they force you to play the Judgment in a way that I just don't enjoy, or it's something like improvised detonators where it just doesn't activate in most matches. But the issue I have with Superheated Glass is that it will activate in most matches, and even when it does activate, it doesn't feel like I'm gaining anything. Because, once again, the effect of Superheated Glass is just kind of dog shit compared to literally anything any other add-on can give you. It's strangely baffling. And I think this mainly just comes down to how Superheated Glass makes it so that your Zealous mode is 50% shorter. I think if they were to reduce the penalty for running this add-on from like 50% to something like 25%, then maybe this add-on might get more use. But as it currently stands, losing half of your duration in your empowered state for an effect that is frankly just kind of dog shit, it's not a good feeling, man. But yeah, that kind of concludes my thoughts on Superheated Glass. So I guess I might as well go ahead and talk about the rest of the game. If you haven't already, I did showcase a lot of footage from this game in both of my, well, not both of my videos, but I showcased a lot of the footage in this game in my short form video discussing the issue the Judgment has when performing 180 flicks, as the reticle just doesn't go where the fucking line is. And I received a few comments on that short, like, oh yeah, no, it's part of the power, it's just that it lags behind and you need to spend a few seconds, spend like a half second waiting for it to readjust itself. It's fine. You just need to be more patient with your shots. That's a stupid fucking argument to make, considering that the whole power fantasy of the Judgment is to perform a flick. Like, really fast flicking motions. And if the power fucking breaks when you perform a really fast flicking motion, then, like, what's the fucking point of having it work that way? The whole point of the Judgment's power is to perform really fast flicks to land really cool shots. So why the fuck does their power break when you flick really fast? It doesn't make sense. It needs to be fixed, either from a UX perspective by making the reticle lag behind to better illustrate what's happening to the player, or by making the power more responsive. I technically already went over this in my long-form video covering this issue, but I figured I might as well go ahead and reiterate it on it here, since, you know, I have you all here. Additionally, as for the game itself, I do think that back-to-back pain res I just got was the reason I ended up winning, as they really liked unhooking people immediately on this killer. And I don't really blame them. Like, you saw how fast that heal was. That was definitely like a resurgence will make it heal. And it took them like half a second to be fully healed, and I left for not even like 10 seconds. But we're down to one generator left. We have 2 generators on the top floor and 1 generator on the bottom floor. So I know that I'm doomed to lose this match because, you know, Forgotten Realms is a fun and balanced map. And you can see me trying to, like, perform 180 flicks on this Aurora, and I'm missing terribly. Feng Min's trying to crank the gen right in front of me, and I get auto-aimed on a hay bale. One of the more egregious shots that get affected by the flick bug, as I'm going to be referring to it from now on. Feng Min tries to pallet stun me for a CJ, I think. But here, you can see me just break the pallet normally, and use the aura reading from Flak to get a hit anyway. That's the issue with this fucking... that's what I was talking about earlier. I get more value out of Flak by just using it regularly than trying to get value out of it with Superheated Glass. It's fucking weird, man. This add-on's fucking garbage. I have no idea how the V got Sin here. Genuinely. I don't know if they had a Sin beforehand and if I just wasn't paying attention, but I'm pretty sure they just straight up didn't have Sin before they picked up this Aurora, but it's fine. I go ahead, I hit the Aurora with Divine Light, they're dead, they're out of the game. I have a person dead, 3-gen situation, you know, the Judgment is supposedly good in this. sort of situation. I still think the whole fear around the Judgment being a Sregening killer, I don't think it's unfounded, okay? The Judgment is especially good at, like, patrolling generators with their power, because, you know, you can just send your power at a generator and potentially hit someone. However, what I find funny in Alf's video is that, like, in both of his matches he showcases, like, neither of them are over 15 minutes. The average game of Dead by Daylight lasts anywhere from, like, 10 to 15 minutes. And you could bring up the argument, like, oh, that's not the point of his video. His video pointed out, like, how the Judgment is able to stall the game out so much that he's guaranteed a point where he can snowball the game. To which I once again counter by just saying, yeah, he was also slugging the entire match. And slugging as a playstyle inherently leads to you snowballing the game out of control, or just straight up losing. Regardless, I do think the Judgment, while they are definitely a killer who should be examined to see if they are going to be good at Sregening, I do think it's not exactly that much of a problem as people are making it out to be still. Also, we saw the anti-camp just now, and honestly, that shit was depressing. I don't know why you can't... For some reason, the anti-camp on the Judgment is just like, the beam slows down tremendously whenever it's near a hook. However, it does not differentiate, like, the beam coming towards the hook or away from the hook. There's no reason in my mind that the anti-camp should activate if the Judgment is firing away from the hook, because that's just fucking stupid. I guess it's a sort of a way to de-incentivize proxy camping, but, like, it's still fucking stupid, I'm not gonna lie. So I go ahead, I see V here, she's on death hook, so I'm gonna go ahead and commit to the chase even if it costs me the game, because there's basically no way that, you know, Fengmin gets a generator done and then manages to get an exit gate done, especially with me standing right next to one of them, before I get the V here. And once again, we bring up the only other time I get value out of Black this match. I go ahead, I break a pallet, and I just immediately follow up with Divine Light. Basically, my problem, to loop back in on, like, the main target of this video, is that, like, Flak and Superheated Glass on the Judgment is just a worse version of running Zanshin tactics. That's the TLDR of this video, basically. If you want to run Superheated Glass and Flak, just run Zanshin tactics and pick a better add-on. This shit is trash. Also, it takes 2 minutes for the Fangman to go ahead and find Hatch, so we're just gonna go ahead and end the video here. I'll go ahead and see you all next time.